actually is morning this time, which is rare, but especially because I didn't fall asleep until 5 something, 4 something. But I got the garbage out, so you know that's a success we didn't have last time. I don't know why I started filming, because it just kind of feels, I opened my eyes for a minute and randomly smelled baking cookies, which I don't think anyone's baking cookies, but it made me want to bake cookies. So yeah, I think I'm gonna make a little breakfast cookie. And see what else I get up to. It was supposed to snow. Oh, it is snowing. Oh, that's beautiful. It's so gorgeous. It wasn't snowing last time I woke up, which was like 20 minutes ago. I don't think I've actually fallen back asleep. But last time I kind of checked. But it's supposed to snow kind of all day today. So my plan is to have a really cozy, like, writing day. I kind of did the chores that I needed to do yesterday mostly. So I should be pretty good. I've got like some dishes to wash, but I can do those at any point. So yeah, the hope is to spend today kind of just being cozy, just doing some writing. I've got writing group at 2. It's in like 2 hours. So I'll do that. And yeah, aside from that, not much going on. And we are up before noon, so we can make the most of this beautiful snowy day. Oh, it's like picturesque. It does appear to be getting heavier, actually, just even as I'm talking. Blowing around more. It was very much like, I don't know, the image that I was getting was very like Little Women a couple minutes ago. Like a sort of that classic like Christmas kind of snow, where it's like everything feels like it should be like out in the country. I don't know if that makes sense or if that's just like my associations. But it's good. Oh my god. It's gorgeous. Yeah, I'm still exhausted, but we'll see. I might lie around for another few minutes. But I might get up and make a cookie now because I have a craving for a cookie. So, as I say, we'll see. Isn't that just lovely? Okay, it was supposed to be an all writing day, but all writing, I kind of like that, like all right. That's so stupid. Ignore that. But I am also kind of getting I'm moving into my new, well, oh god. I've signed the lease. I still need to transfer the first month's rent. But today is the 20th. So in 11 days, are there 30 days in March or 31? There's 31. In 12 days, which is actually more time than I thought I kind of had, which is kind of nice. In 12 days, I will be moving into my new apartment. I'm very excited about that, but I'm also just thinking about like the setup and the coziness and the fact that I don't have to leave the room. The sort of living area and bedroom are like conjoined. And thinking about how lovely it would be to just like park myself on the couch, still kind of in my bedroom, with a lovely warm blanket. So all that to say, I might actually do some crochet today. I got cut off because my phone was out of storage again. But I've got my Photos app down to less than 100 gigabytes of storage on my phone for the first time since I checked, since this started being a problem. Evidently it's a problem. But yeah, I took my meds this morning after not taking them for the past 2 days because I kept waking up past noon. And I had big plans for the day. I was going to write all day and enjoy the snow and be really cozy. And that didn't totally happen. I spent probably 4.5 hours writing total, and I wrote like 2,000 words. But actually, plus a couple pages of other like notes, so more than 2,000 words. But I feel like I got so distracted and sidetracked with like trying to get tasks and things like checked off the to-do list before I let myself sit down to write, because there were just things like weighing on my mind that I was like, I need to do that, and I've been putting it off, and I shouldn't put it off until tomorrow. I should do it now, which was kind of annoying because things kept coming up, but also I think part of it was like my brain kept looking for things to come up. Like it wasn't just the thing's fault. It was very much, I kept being like, and what else needs to be done? Because everything needs to be perfect and tidy before I can write. And I think that's something like, I have this weird conflict between like, I have to write because it's a hobby, and if it's a hobby that I'm going to spend time on, I have to like get good enough at it that it's worth it. Otherwise, I'm not allowed to spend time on it. So if I'm not spending time on my hobby, then I shouldn't be doing it. And and if I'm not taking it seriously, then I shouldn't be giving myself time to do it. But also, it's just a hobby, and so I'm not allowed to do it until everything else is done. And that is annoying and absurd, because everything else will never be done. That's impossible. I will always have something to do, and I know theoretically maybe that's not impossible, but I will never be fully caught up on everything that I ever have to do. I would love to be at some point. I would love to arrange my life and get the things that are hanging over me done and out of the way so that I am completely caught up, and that the only things that come up for me to do are like cleaning and cooking and showering and washing dishes. But even then, those things are like laundry. Like there will always be something. You can't clean your entire house and do all of your laundry and wash all of your dishes and eat takeout. Like you can't do all of those things in one day and never have anything to do. So and obviously like I could spread the chores out like one per day, and then I could do them in the morning and then be free. But there are just so many other things as well that a much more reasonable approach for me is to be okay with things not being done. But I struggle with that. And I'm struggling to not get frustrated with myself and get mad at myself and like berate myself for not having spent 8 hours writing today, because I feel like I should be, not that I should be doing that, but I have a problem with finishing writing projects. I sort of, again, they become like chores and tasks, and then I hate working on them because I've put so much pressure on them, and then I don't finish them, and then I hate the fact that I didn't finish them, and I berate myself for that, and then that makes the next one even harder, and it's a vicious cycle. So I'm trying to like finish some things, or like just write some things, but then I'm like, well, I should have finished a full chapter today. I should have written a full chapter. And the fact that I didn't spend 8 hours writing, and I didn't finish a chapter and also edit it and also have it like completely done and ready to go, that is a failure. Doesn't matter if I wrote, I don't know, 2,000 words plus another few paragraphs plus 2.5 pages of notes. That doesn't matter. What matters is that I didn't write a complete thing, which, keeping in mind, like, a chapter for me is, this chapter is probably going to be 10,000 words, 15,000 words, somewhere in there. I'd like to say 10, but I think that's underestimating, honestly. Given that, like, a fairly small section of it today is already 2,000 words. Or I guess that section is only 1,500. But the expectation to, like, just sit down and lock in and write all day and write something from start to finish without stopping to edit, without getting distracted about, like, other scenes and other things popping into my mind, is maybe it's like a thing neurotypicals can do. I can't do that. And theoretically I should be able to, you know, like ADHD hyperfocus. But to me, I sat down and wrote for 2.5 hours without stopping, and then my brain was exhausted because I just wrote for 2.5 hours without any kind of break. And then my brain is burned out for the next hour, and I have to, like, coax it back to life. And probably it didn't help that I hadn't eaten anything other than my breakfast cookie before doing that writing for 2.5 hours. And I started at 5 p.m. and I ate my breakfast at like 1 or 2, somewhere in there. So that probably didn't help either. But my mind's like, oh, but this was my writing day. This was the perfect snowy Friday that I could use for writing. Like, what am I going to do now? And it's like, you could write tomorrow. You could write for 50 minutes, take a break. Like, you could try that fancy Pomodoro shit. You could write for a while and then go for a walk. I ended up taking a walk tonight. It was lovely. It definitely helped reset the brain. Not totally. It was still a little frazzled. It still is a little frazzled, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, it's like, I can just do this again tomorrow. I can do this whenever I want to. Like, it's not... It's not like I had one day that I was allowed to write, and I was expected and needed to write a full chapter in this day. That's not what it was at all. I just set myself a ridiculously high standard because I feel guilty about not spending enough time writing, and I'm like, why can't I finish anything? And I'm like, oh, look at these other writers who are writing for 8 hours a day. Like, of course I'm not finishing anything. I would say I write something most days, but like, even that is like writing a line most days, writing one sentence every day is like a big thing for me because I struggle with forming routines and habits. And doing anything for 8 hours in a day is extra difficult. Like, that is not something that I can just kind of do. But I'm like, well, look at these other people who are spending the whole day writing. No wonder they're finishing things. If you just did that, you would finish things. And then I was like, and what you're going to finish is this chapter. You're going to finish the whole chapter. Sure, you have a mess of like mixtures of notes and prose and all of this stuff to sort through. That doesn't matter. You're going to pick up halfway through. You're going to write the end of the chapter, even though the end of the chapter, again, is probably a good 8,000 words. Like, that's just a guess for how much has to still happen, but like, it's not a small undertaking. And then I'm like, and you're also going to go through all of the notes that you have separate. You're going to go through all the jot notes, all the bits of dialogue, and you're going to sort those out, and you're going to make it all into one coherent chapter today. That's a ridiculous expectation, but I don't know what a reasonable expectation is. I guess that's the problem. There's no such thing as a reasonable expectation.
the reasonable expectation would be, I'd like to just spend some time writing today. That's a reasonable expectation, and I did that. But I feel like I need to accomplish something. And like having dedicated time to a hobby that I really love is not enough of an accomplishment. I have to show that I'm doing it well enough, I guess. And it's fucking exhausting and it doesn't make any sense. Like, although I guess that is helpful. Like, stop setting expectations of what you want to get done. Stop setting expectations that are reliant on output rather than input. I don't know. Because those expectations you don't have control over. And I think that's part of the thing, is realizing what I have control over and what I don't. Like, right now, I'm in a good place where tomorrow I have very little that I need to do. I'd like to call my grandma, and I need to try to send my rent money because I tried to send it today and it didn't go through. But aside from that, I cleaned the kitchen today. I replaced the garbage bags. I took the garbage out at, 4 a.m. I washed all of my dishes. Like, I ended up doing a ton of other chores and things that, like, were just kind of lingering. But I'm like, but you're such a failure because you said you were going to take a cozy day to just sit and write, and you didn't do that. So look at you failing yourself again. Look at you failing by getting distracted doing chores when you decided that you were going to write. Like, truly, you cannot win when that's the mindset. Like, it makes far more sense to say, I don't know, here's a project that I'm working on. Here's what I'm enjoying working on most at the moment. So maybe I try to work on that. Maybe I try to finish something there. But really, the goal is spend some time writing and do what I feel like I need and want to do in the moment. So washing the sink and getting all my dishes done, that worked. Yes, it was kind of an amphetamine fueled, like, manic, not a manic episode, but a period of mania, because I missed my meds for 2 days and now I'm back. But it still was getting things done that I wanted to get done, and I ran the dishes, which I hate running the dishwasher. So there's another win. And still my brain is like, but you didn't do what you said you were going to do. You said you were going to spend 8 hours writing and finish a chapter. You're such a failure for not doing that. Like, chill the fuck out. That's ridiculous. And of course, we're all familiar with, like, well, maybe we're not all familiar. I don't know. I know that there is a part of that is like the inner critic, the inner critical parent, if you will. Love that family parts work, or internal family systems. That's what it's called. But it's hard to just stop believing that. Like, it's hard to just say, that's my inner critic. That's my critical parent. And therefore they're wrong. Because you can find so many reasons to back it up. Like, well, I do want to spend more time writing, and I do want to finish something, and I am going to burn out on this hobby if I keep starting things and never finishing them, and because I know that frustrates me, having a bunch of things unfinished. I know that just, like, drains my mental energy. And I know that I could probably, well, if I forced myself, I could write for 8 hours probably in a day, but I would need to take breaks. But it's hard to say, hey, it actually does make a lot more sense to say, tomorrow I'm not even putting my phone on do not disturb, because again, that's the thing. It's like you checked your phone, you were on your phone, you were voice noting your friends. That's your lack of focus. You're unfocused. And it's I hate that. The perfectionism of it all. Like you have to get the perfect environment to do any work in. You have to have calming music with a Pomodoro timer on the TV if you're going to have any kind of content. And you have to lock your phone away. And like, yes, sometimes that is helpful for me. But when my brain is going crazy, voice noting someone helps. Or filming. That's kind of why I'm doing this. Or a big part of why. Because sometimes I just need to get some thoughts out of my brain. But where was I even going with that? Right, it's hard to say, like, actually it makes more sense to say, okay, tomorrow we also don't have anything to do. So tomorrow can be a cozy writing day as well. It's not a do-over, it's not a redo because we didn't fail this one. Tomorrow can just also be a writing day. If you want to make another cookie, make another cookie. If you want to get takeout or like whatever feels good in the moment, like you don't need to make it you don't need to do it perfectly to do it. So maybe tomorrow we practice writing until we start to feel tired, and then we see how long it's been. And we take a break, and we see how our brain's feeling, and we do something else. We go outside. And then when we feel like writing again, if we feel like writing again, we sit down and do some more. And we sort of see, okay, how long can I write for in a day right now? Maybe it is just 2 hours. I wrote for 40 minutes straight, and then I kind of faffed about for the next hour and 10 minutes in my first supposed chunk of 2 hours writing. But then I wrote for 2.5 hours. So today, let's say 3 hours, maybe 3 hours and 15 minutes. No, 3 hours is probably more accurate. But like we can then say, okay, let's see if that's the case tomorrow. It's not going to be the same every day. If tomorrow I manage to write for 20 minutes and then I can't think of anything else, that's fine. We're just seeing. But yeah, as I say, it is hard to say that. I mean, I think that is what I'm going to do. And just kind of not experiment, but maybe play is a better word. Just let myself play in the writing. I think part of it is also that I have a clear vision for the tone that I want to communicate. Like I have a clear vision for how I want this scene to read. And trying to write with the reading in mind is difficult for me. And I'm sure it's partly because I've literally never taken a single creative writing class. I've taught more creative writing than I have learned. And so things like pacing and atmosphere and like I'm thinking back to lessons that I gave to grade 7s in terms of how to establish atmosphere and how to change up your pacing in a narrative. And I'm trying to like remember that while I'm trying to write. And like, I don't know how to make a scene read slowly. Like, I know how to make it drag. I know how to make it feel too slow. I know how to make it feel like drudgerous. I don't think that's a word, but you know what I mean. But I don't know how to just make it like slow and gentle and sort of calm. But I'm also like, oh, but I can't take any creative writing classes or courses because it's just a hobby and I can't be spending money on a hobby when I don't have extra money to spend right now. And there's no possible way that I could find any writing resources that wouldn't be a paid class, which is a whole other thing. But then it's like, oh, there's a to-do list. You can't complain about not knowing how to write pacing if you haven't explored all of the free options for learning pacing. And it just becomes a lot because then it's like, well, now the project, the plan, whatever, the task isn't to write, it's to research writing. And I have to just like hold this scene in my head while I go and research pacing. Although I guess it makes more sense to just write the scene and then research how to change the pacing if when I read it, the pacing is off. See, this is why we verbalize things. It is so helpful. Yeah. My brain is still a little, but I think I probably have to put this away for tonight because thinking about going back to it is making my brain feel more tired. Even though it's like 11 o'clock now, something like that. Yeah, it's nearly 11. So it's been like 3.5 hours almost since I stopped writing, and my brain is still tired. I did like eat dinner and I went on a walk and I have done other things, but I'm also just not very good at resting my brain, especially. And especially resting my brain from inside. That is tricky. But yeah, maybe we'll put it away for tonight. I did initially, I was like, man, I had such big plans and I just flubbed them. And like, yeah, sure I did, but that's because the plans weren't good plans. The plans were unrealistic and they weren't really plans, they were expectations. They were demands on productivity and the ability to sit and write for an entire day, which, yeah, professional writers can probably do. I'm not there at this point. But I guess I am feeling better about that now. I'm feeling more like it's okay that the plan didn't go according to plan because it wasn't a functional plan, and we have now learned that. We have learned from it. And I hate that kind of like, I'm like, well, it's okay that it failed because we learned from it and we got a lot of other chores done and we did this and this and this, and so it was still productive and still good and it's still a success. I do hate that impulse. But I guess it's like we did not follow through on the plan fully, and we realized there were flaws in the plan, and we can try a different plan tomorrow. And also, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's okay. There's no real negative consequences from not having followed through on my plan to have a cozy writing day, except that I learned something about myself. But yeah, I do kind of hate that my instinct is to justify and to like show how the day was a success. But I think that also is kind of like, I do think it makes sense to an extent, because to an extent it's, you didn't go through with the plan, but that doesn't mean your day was a failure. That doesn't mean that you failed in any way just because you didn't like write for 8 hours and write a whole chapter. That's just because you didn't do that doesn't mean that you failed. And so I think it does make sense to say, here are the ways in which this was successful. I guess it's just that I hate the ideas of failure and success. Rather, I hate how much those ideas dominate my life. Like, something is only valuable if it is successful. And if it is a failure, then we got to figure out what we learned from it, because failures are not allowed. And sometimes it is just an abject fail, not even an abject failure, but sometimes you do not do what you set out to do, and there are no redeeming qualities. And that is okay. And I believe that, even though it sounds like I don't. But yeah, I've got a fucking hangnail that is driving me crazy, and I need to go deal with that. So I'm going to stop this now. Also, I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point. Yeah, cozy writing day didn't totally go through, but we'll see. I think it's probably going to snow again here tomorrow. It's been incredibly snowy, so fingers crossed it keeps that up. Not that it has to snow for me to write, but, you know, again, various reasons. If the weather's shit, you're allowed to stay inside and do your hobbies. But yeah, I'm going to go try to wind down a little bit somehow. I don't know. We'll see. I am exhausted, but also wired. So we're gonna put this day to bed, and we'll do it differently tomorrow, I guess.